So this is a heart hook that I first saw near Kingston. Trying to remember his name, Don McKay. So I may be opening myself up to copyright infringement here, but so this is a nice simple hook. It's the easiest forge weld in the world, but it lets you show people how forge welding is done. You can talk through the process, and you don't have to worry about failing. Although, you know, you're forge welding, so anything's possible. So first thing I'm going to do is straighten this piece out.
Oh, that's one of our pieces of scrap.
It is, yeah.
Yes, all right.
I don't want to cheat too much here. So I'm just going to start with a straight piece of, you know, 1/4 round, 3/8 round, something like that. You can use square, but because of the way it's getting twisted, it's going to work out better if it's round. And you want to go, you know, 1 foot 18 inches long, something like that. And there's certain shapes people like. So people love leaves. You put a leaf on anything, people will pay more money for it. People love leaves. And hearts, people go nuts for hearts, especially the younger ones. So, alright, just to prove you don't always need an anvil. So we're going to do that. Turn that fan off. Okay. So I've successfully treated a straight piece of steel. Aren't you impressed?
Woo!
So we're going to bend it in half. So a lot of times when people make hearts, they don't do any forge welding. So the join, the fold is at the bottom, and then it will come up, and then these two pieces don't touch. Like they touch, but they're not one piece. So what I want is I want it touching. I want it all one piece. It's like a circle, only it's a heart. So I'm going to bend it in half. This is the hardest part of the whole process. Just trying to bend it in half in a way that the ends are in the same place. By far the hardest part of the whole thing. If you can get this right, everything else is easy. It doesn't need to be perfect, it should be pretty close. Okay, so I've got those together now. I can squeeze them like so. And this isn't necessary, but it ends up working a bit better. Is if you can kind of pinch this off here. Don't get too aggressive. But if you can pinch that off, well, I've obviously lost most of my functional heat at this point. Just so it's a little bit tighter than that.
Nope.
Down here. Just so it isn't a little tighter in there. Don't go to a point. It's too much. It'll break. Okay, so now we've got this. What I want to do is forge weld these two ends together. So that's why I'm saying this is a super easy forge weld, because it's one piece. I'm not doing a drop tongs, complicated. One piece. So I'm going to stick it in the fire. The reason why multiple piece forge welds are harder, it's harder to get them the same temperature. And the forge weld is going to work best when your two pieces of steel are the same temperature. That's the trick. That and having a nice clean fire that's got no big air pockets in it, and then not beating the living crap out of it when it comes out of the fire. Most people I try to teach how to do forge welding feel like the harder they hit it, the more likely it is to stick. And that's kind of the opposite. So, this is probably also sitting in my trailer somewhere. Spoon. So get yourself set up ahead of time. So if I tried to weld it now, I probably could, but it isn't very clean. So my weld wouldn't be as good as I want it to be. So I'm going to scrape that off. This is where we want our audience to be about 10 feet away. This and the later part of it. So now we're going to put this on. We want no scale. The borax will form a glass on the outside of the steel, and that will keep the scale from forming. The other way to deal with this is kind of in reverse. So this is the way a lot of English smiths will do it. They will let the scale form. When it comes out of the fire, they'll shake it, and so the scale will fly off along with that liquid surface. That's really not good for demonstrations in my mind. It looks cool, but I don't know about throwing molten lava at people. So it feels safer to me to do it this way. So now I'm going to heat it up. Again, I want a nice compact fire. You probably haven't noticed, but in my spare time, I've been pulling stuff in and tamping it down. I should really put some more on at this point, but since I'm doing a weld, I don't want to introduce anything new. So tap, 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 tap. So this is often described as a cave. You want a cave, but you want that top of that to be black. And you don't want air on the inside of it. That's the problem with that description of calling it a cave, is that it makes it sound like there should be air on the inside. There should be empty bits. There shouldn't. It should be very compact. And I'm going to bring it out, and I'm just going to tack weld it. I'm just going to very gently get them connected. And now it's not welding anymore because it's not hot enough, which is expected. And now I'm going to take my brush it off one more time. At this point, the flexing isn't terribly important. Move my spin on, there it is. Because the inside of it is already welded together. There's not much for the flex to go in, but it can't hurt, particularly when you're getting started, to keep flexing it and keep flexing it. So that first time, I'm going to focus on forge welding this way so that they stick. So there's my gap now, there's my line. Now I'm going to have to rotate it and hammer it this way. Other that line will always be there. If I hammer it this way now, that line should go away. I'll probably start the other way first, just to give it a bit more confidence. And then I can turn it this way and make that line start going away. You will know whether or not it welded by how it feels. If it feels like two pieces, it's two pieces. If it feels like a solid thunk when you hit it, it's one piece. So again, if you want to know where that weld has been completed and where it hasn't, you can let it cool down a little bit, and then we can look at it here. What am I doing? Aiming wise.
Perfect, yep.
Okay, so you can see from here down, it's 100% welded. It's welded on the inside here, and then not welded. So what I want to ultimately do is put a hole, or two holes ideally, right in here somewhere. So I'm going to do another weld up higher, and then we'll be done that part. So that bottom part's going to be the hook. Now historically, they forge welded like everything, because forge welding was easier back then. They were using wrought iron. It wasn't dramatically easier, but it was easier. And for them, there was a very big difference between cheap steel and expensive steel. There was a huge gap. So you weren't going to use expensive steel unless you really needed to, and you wouldn't use very much of it. Well, for us, expensive steel really isn't that much more expensive. So it's no big deal to make the whole hammer at a 1045. Or go for it. You know, it's not that much more expensive. Back then, that wouldn't have occurred to them in their wildest dreams. You would make the body of the hammer out of cheap wrought iron, and then you'd make only the hitting parts the good tool steel. So when I make the hammer, I make it out of a solid piece. So this is a solid piece. I'm just going to punch a hole through and then shape the ends. When they made it, they would have made the body, and then they would have had a hard face that would be welded on, and a hard face that would be welded on. So forge welding was just what they did. There was one of our members. He did his apprenticeship in Germany, and he said that was the first thing they did in the morning is they would take 2 thin horseshoes and weld them into a solid horseshoe that was nice and thick. And he said the farmers loved them because they were thicker than the normal ones. But that was kind of your morning exercise. Come in first thing in the day and just start welding horseshoes together. So like they say, welding was like breathing for them. Well, forge welding was like breathing for them, yeah. So we'll start coming down here and thin this out. Now, there is a certain amount of choice you have about what the end of your hook should look like. What I often do is that little pig's tail ending, where it's just a narrow round taper, and then it comes up and like this. So that's my pig's tail ending. You could argue, and certainly guys like Jim have, that's not the best way to end a hook, because it can catch on things like sweaters and stuff. So you have other choices. So you could put a ball on the end of your hook so that it's going to catch on the ball, but not catch on the ball. It's not going to hurt anything. Or you could do something like this, only in reverse, so that it kind of flails out like this, and so it's not going to catch on anything. So if this is my hook coming up like this, so I've broadened it into a fishtail, and so it's not going to catch on anything, but it still looks nice. So whatever you do, it should look nice. Don't just like end the bar. Like it's got to end in something decorative looking. Alright, while we were talking, I decided that was too long. So let's do that. So we're just going to flare that out a bit. And then we can come down with it like this. And then we can bring it around. Somewhere in there. So you can see that's not going to catch on anything, or at least it's not as likely to. Whereas if I've got a very narrow, pointy tip, it can catch on that easily. Alright, so I haven't shown you the heart part of this yet, though. That's the next step. And this is the reason that forge weld's got to be pretty good, because I'm going to be trying to rip it apart. And if you're ripping it apart and the bottom isn't welded together, it comes apart. So it succeeds in ripping itself apart. So I want a punch that will go all the way through without getting stuck. And we want... So what you want to try to do while you're sitting here is think in your head, what are the next steps I need to take? What tools am I going to need? And then get those tools ready. So rather than just staring off into the distance and not thinking, you might as well do at least a nominal amount of thinking so that you're ready. So I'm going to open it about 2/3 of the way up, not halfway, about 2/3 of the way up. Then I can open it up. You can also do this over the horn and the handle if you don't have one of these. Horn works fine. And I want to hit down, like so. And again, if you're nervous about your weld, you can squeeze. You're holding your weld with your tongs. You're holding your weld with your tongs nice and tight. That gives it a better chance of not ripping apart. So I heat it up again. The easiest way to make that rip apart is trying to do that opening and bending while it's cold. And you're putting a lot more force on it. If it's hot, it's happy to open. There's no objection to opening at all. If it's cold, the whole thing goes under stress. So we keep it nice and hot. I'm going to bend that down a bit more. So now we can come down here. And come at, we're driving it down, trying to keep an eye on it the whole time. It'll probably be a little misshapen the first time you do it. You get just a little bit of tweak now by heating it up and going either the horn or the Bic. So get it flat, and then just look at it and see where it's off. So you're going to want to hit it like this, bring it back to center. If you want, what you can do, well, let's demonstrate it in a more tool-friendly way. So I can hold it over the corner here. So you see how this is now facing this corner. So now when I hit down, it's in essence pushing in this direction, but it's doing it in reverse. If I want to bring that more into the middle, and then it's just personal taste as to what you want your heart to look like and that sort of thing. I'll probably close it a bit more at the bottom, and then I think we'll call that good. We'll get that there. I think I want to pinch you a bit more. I don't like the
Up here on the camera, just.
Oh, yeah, sorry, down in here. So I'm just gonna pinch this together. Yeah, so I often say the only thing I know about art is that I have a neighbor named Art, and he seems like a nice guy. But I like that from an artistic point of view, at least for me. So that's the shape I'm kind of going for.
And how do you hang that?
A couple ways. So what I would do probably next, ideally, is I'd take one more pass in here, and I would weld that together, and then I can drill some holes through it. I'd probably use a longer piece of steel, to be honest, and then I would, but, I mean, I've had people at fairs, I would make something this size, and I said, what you can do is just drive a little nail with a big head on it. One here. That'll work. You'll see the nail, but so what, and that's fine. So if I've got, I got to light around. So this is going to be comical in a sense, but you get the concept anyway. So I've got like a roofing nail on there. That's not going to come off.
Ah.
Right? So if I got a little bitty framing nail or
finishing nail.
If I get a finishing nail, it's going to slide off every time. But if I got something with a decent sized head on it, that's not going anywhere. So, and something that small, like you're not hanging, a 400-pound thing off that. It's going to be something small. So, I think that's perfectly fine. Okay.